Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is
Indigence, a level of poverty in which real hardship and deprivation are suffered and comforts of life are wholly lacking. That's not a good one.
That is bleak.
It is bad. So, first of all, I never heard this word before. Indigence. I feel like I'm missing like a syllable when I say it. Especially when I read it. Indigence is easy to say, but reading it, it looks like indulgence, or it looks like it should have something else. And indulgence is very much the opposite of this.
Very much so.
So, what I looked up and my approach. Sorry if I'm jumping into this, but
no, please do.
My approach was, I read some articles. What are the positives of poverty? And I wanted to see, like, what is a positive of poverty? And my thought in reading what is a positive of poverty, it's just like the superficial things that all of us care about don't matter. You know, that's what I was thinking that I was going to get to. And you get to, like, the core of somebody and the core of what makes somebody tick and things like that.
Okay.
But this article was, I'm just going to read it, though. It said, and these are exactly word for word. Once things have been really bad, you're not as frightened of tough times and risks. And that makes sense. Like if you've hit the bottom, then you're going to take bigger risks and you're not in fear. But then every other answer, it was the top 5 reasons that the positive of poverty. They're all exactly the same. Having been poor really helps you appreciate not being poor.
Boo.
That's the exact same thing as the other one, and it's terrible.
Exactly.
It'll give you something to brag about later.
What?
I swear. This is... you'll learn new skills. That one's good. That makes sense. And then the last one. Being poor makes you work hard not to be destitute again. So every single one of these, other than learning new skills, every single answer was about not being poor.
Right.
Like it was the complete opposite.
Look back on it.
Yeah, and it was just the worst.
In the moment.
It was the worst article of all time. But I was looking for that learn new skills, and you'll take risks and things like that.
Okay.
So where I went from that was I abstracted it out to space, like I always do, because I feel like it's not as sad as if it's in space.
Of course.
And I wanted to do something about hitting rock bottom, and I considered rock bottom being the bottom of a crater on another planet. And it's like a co-op game where you're this like some sort of space explorers, and somehow you end up at the bottom of this crater and you're trying to work your way out. Your ship crashed and you've just literally hit rock bottom. It's just rock. And what I wanted to do was, and I kind of messed with it with cards, and I was trying to figure out how this all could work, was you're trying to work your way up using the tools that you have, which are whatever's in your spaceship, and there are some rocks around that you can, crush and make into other things, dirt, and build your way up. And what I wanted to do was I made this like tableau of cards that was 4 cards wide and 6 tall. And basically you were overlaying card on top of each other, and the only way I can explain it is half of the card goes over the one below it. So they're wide ways, they're horizontal, and when you lay one on top, half of it goes on top of that one. And the bottom half of the card is kind of the dirt, and then the top half is whatever exists on there. So you might show your crashed spaceship. And then if I put another card over that, it just overlays more dirt over the crashed spaceship and raises the dirt higher, and that's whatever we've built up towards. So it's this thing that's constantly building up. But the whole way that everything worked was I had a bunch of dice involved, and character cards. And the character cards go under each section of this. So you place your character where you want to kind of work. So it's a little bit of a worker placement. But in this line of cards that's going up is a chain of abilities that eventually is going to be some sort of little engine building thing that what's special about that area. You work your way up in the area, and as you get higher, more opportunities arise. Because you're closer to the top. But there's more threats because you're further from everybody else. You're further from your your comfort level and the rock bottom where you kind of were settling in. And it's almost everything I have without just getting into really boring basic details where I put a die above each one and the color represented hold on, I'm checking my notes. The color was the type of resources available there, and the number was the motivation of the character that goes there. So you rolled all the dice for each pile, and then there's a whole phase of like take a die, place it on a pile, and then we add to one of the piles, and we all place our characters, and it's kind of like a slow build upwards to try to get out of rock bottom.
Okay.
It's way more mechanical and whatever than it needs to be, but I have it literally set up next to me on the table, and I'm pretty proud of my creation.
I mean, I'm always a big fan of like changing landscapes so that you can actually see progress in a game, so that if you walk by a table at the beginning of the game, you can tell that things have changed or progressed if you walk by 15 or 20 minutes later. So the fact that these dirt piles are taller, or that people are in different places, that you can see that they have made improvements and that they are in a better spot than before.
And I picture it being very like artistic, where it like looks like I made sides that went up. So I had 6 cards that went up on the sides, and you were trying to work your way up to the sides. And then like imagine like little drawings, like a 2D perspective of looking into this, where things are getting taller and little tiny details and things like that, where it's actually like a pretty picture as well as these mechanics and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I've been trying to play around with a building type game where, yeah, you can look at what you've made at the very end and be like, whoa, that's cool. Because I mean, like, Carcassonne is the poster child of that kind of stuff, where you create something and you can look on it and say, behold.
I will just set up Carcassonne tiles for fun, just to make them look cool. Like, and even on like the app and things like I just, that's absolutely like that sort of puzzly factor of satisfying placement is very cool.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go with spatial for this game. Surprise, surprise. Which doesn't make sense to me at all. So I, like you, I didn't hear about the word indigence. I don't know what it meant. Hadn't heard of it before. So I actually looked on Google, and it showed the usage of the word over time. And it's very, very high in the 1800s, and then it's just basically not used anymore.
Okay.
And so I actually looked at some of the books that they scanned that use the word indigence. And there's one called The Letters of Junius. I don't know exactly what it's called, but the sentence that stood out to me, it's called, it says, I guess the gist of this letter was that this person had heard of the good things that Junius had done.
Okay.
But they wanted proof of what they did.
Oh,
and so Junius had demanded to hear of but a single instance of indigence relieved and works of genius rewarded by the Duke of Bedford. Mrs. Griffith produced that instance, and no small impression was made by it on the mind of the public in favor of the Duke. So people had heard good things about this Duke, about how he had helped people, but they wanted just a little bit more proof of what he had done.
That's wonderful.
Just to make sure that everything was good to go. And so I was
just a pre-internet thing going there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I heard that the Duke of Bedford is a very, very good person. But they wanted receipts, I guess.
Love it.
And so, bluffing is such an easy thing to like go into, that like you could say that you're doing these good deeds, and if nobody calls you out on it, you get to complete those actions. But I wouldn't necessarily want to put people in the position that they are bad people trying to get away with things. I would want people to be like the Duke of Bedford, where just good rewards good. And so, I don't know, because like in a game where there's no conflict, I mean, what are you fighting in that instance? So everyone's just trying to fight indigence, fight poverty. But then you wouldn't call other people out on it or that kind of stuff. So this was a tough one for me. I'm glad you were able to abstract things a little bit more. I think I take things too literally with these designs.
Well, I did a second like sort of literal thing where basically I was trying to figure out that complete lack of personal belongings and what that means. And like you're sort of detached from everything. But what it meant to me was that in just a simple commerce system where you have money and you have different, and I was trying to, this doesn't really work here where you can make change for your bills. Like I have a 10 and I have a 5 and I can get 5 ones or 10 ones. But I was thinking about getting paid for jobs in certain amount of bills. You choose your jobs based on the money, and then you have to spend them for the things that you need, like food and things like that. But the idea of it was that you want to pay exact. So they're exact change. Like there's no, change method, and maybe it's a barter system instead of a dollar bill system, because a dollar bill system you could just say, why don't you just make change? Yeah. But the idea was not wasting anything. So if you're as poor as ever and every dollar counts, you want to spend them well. And the best way I could think of that from a game perspective was just you don't get change. So I was trying to think of something with that as well.
All right. Yeah, so it's like Alhambra, where you need to
that's
have
exactly
the
what I was
exact
thinking.
cards.
Yep.
Nice.
I love Alhambra. Because it's spatial and has the exact change.
There you go. Exactly. That's what I want.
Oh, yeah, and cool. All right. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yep. Indigence.
I'm going to send you a picture.
Relieve indigence.
What'd you say?
We just need to relieve indigence.
Oh,
It is a state that you need to relieve.
Yes. I feel bad even talking about it and making a game out of. But
yeah, exactly. But it could be a message that you're trying to get across. I mean, like
Sure.
Monopoly was originally a game about how terrible landlords and all that kind of stuff. And then it seems like that message got lost a little bit along the way, especially since it was stolen from the original creator. But I mean, we could, if we keep it tight, we could keep it focused. We could send a good message.
We can solve the world's problems through our games that we don't actually make.
Exactly. You got it.
Awesome. All right, well, I'll catch you again next week. This will be there.
Later.
See ya.